Hello everybody, it's Matildas. The last time we got together I was doing a bunch of live streaming and I discovered that as much as I enjoyed having people keep me company, the fact that people were keeping me company was actually distracting me from my work, which is probably a bad thing. So I'm going to be going to pre-recorded videos from here on out and working with hopefully fewer distractions, less likely to mess anything up while I'm talking to people, because I won't be talking to people back and forth in a conversation. The last time we got together, I was getting ready to start calligraphy on this beautiful piece right here and discovered that the vellum was not actually quite ready for me. I've got a sample here. This is a piece of vellum that I cut off from the original piece. And unfortunately, it was acting up on me, and the ink wasn't behaving, it wasn't flowing well, and I realized that I need to pounce the vellum. Unfortunately, it's not letting me zoom in right now to show you what I needed to show you, what I wanted to show you about the piece. Let's see if I can get a little closer here and focus in. Nope, doesn't want to focus. Lovely. This is definitely a new thing for me, and my technical skills, my video skills are not anywhere near what my scribal skills are, so we'll just be living with that, I guess. Anyway, I wanted to pounce the vellum, and I wanted to teach you all how to pounce vellum. Vellum, when it comes in, can sometimes have skin oils or actual oils from the original animals still embedded in the fiber, I guess you could say, of the vellum, of the fabric, so to speak. And you can get that out by sanding it smooth and scuffing away any greasy spots. You can also get rid of it by using what is called Pounce. Pounce is often a combination of chalk and pumice and gum sandarac. Gum sandarac being a powdered tree resin. I don't have pumice and I don't have chalk. I do, however, have gum sandarac, which I purchased from John Neal Booksellers. That would be an unsolicited advertisement right there. Comes in a bag, in a little container like this. Take the bag out and it's going to be very powdery. It's going to be very leaky. You can see all that inside the container there. That's what we want. We want this on the vellum because we're going to rub it in and it's going to make the surface just a little bit more tacky, a little bit more sticky, a little less likely to bleed or feather when you write across it with wet ink. I'm going to get some things out of the way here. Ideally, you want to prep your vellum before you start pencil marking on it. This was a really, really good sheet that I received from my supplier, and so I thought that it wouldn't need preparation. I also myself have a slight flaw of impatience, which is not a good thing to have when you're a scribe or a cook. I'm not much of a cook either. What you do is just rub this in like that, and it disappears. I'm going to pounce everywhere. You sort of tap it like that to get pounce onto the page. It's just going to move. Everywhere that I'm going to paint, everywhere that I'm going to write, I'm going to go ahead and pounce. And that will make the paint not bead up and resist when I write. When I paint, it will make the ink behave better. It will shake my camera a whole lot, but that's how that goes. You want to scuff it and rub it into the fibers. Fiber isn't the right word, but into all of the little miniature creases and microscopic hills and valleys of the vellum. I'm getting out of the way some of my belongings here, my pencil and pens, my text, all this good stuff. We'll get those out of the way right now. There we go. And luckily for me, it doesn't seem to be doing much to rub away any of my pencil marks, so I'm not going to have to worry about that. It is probably going to put pencil marks all over my bag of pounds, but I can live with that. It's also been a couple weeks since I've been anywhere near this vellum, so it's developed a little bit of a coating of dust and cat hair, and pouncing it is letting me rub all of that off as well. This right here, by the way, is not a cat hair. I don't know if you can see that or not. That's a place where there was a ripple in my vellum, and trying to make a straight line with my lettering guide, it popped off the ruler and just went zoop and made a crooked line. It happens. I've finally learned a workaround for it. Too late for this piece, but I learned one just this weekend and I was very excited. Probably in a future installment of this video series, I will show you how to do that. So I'm putting it back away where it belongs, tucking it in, tucking the string in, putting my lid on and hoping it'll all stay. There we go. That's Gum Sanderac from John Neal Books. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Now in period, what they tell you to do when you are finished pouncing, because now you have chalk and you have pumice powder and you have things that are going to clog your pen, and you don't want that. You want to brush all of the pounce right back off again with a feather. This is just a gifted feather. I'm pretty sure it's goose or turkey. It was given to me as a present to turn into a quill. When you make quills, you will actually discover that you pull all of these barbs off. Barbs are the fletching part of the feather. And there's my powder all removed. I have a nice powdery feather now. Life is good. So in theory, I should be ready to start doing calligraphy. I just have to make sure that my camera arm is going to stop swiveling. There we go. That should be tight enough to hold it in place. Hello, cat. I have a cat. She thinks she is helping. So we're going to pull out, I have some oak gall ink. Oak gall is wonderful stuff. It is actually a dye that is sort of a gray, and as soon as it comes into contact with oxygen, it turns rich, rich black. It is a period recipe ink. Wonderful stuff. I'm using McCaffrey's Penman's ink right now, but if you're in the SCA, another really good source is Ian the Green's ink. This is starting to seem like perhaps it's gone bad or moldy. It's got some thick glop in the bottom of it that's not making me very happy. But I'm going to pull out my pen. I'm going to pull out my text. That's kind of important. I have several pages of text here. This is my vellum scrap. This text tells me what my client wanted from his scroll, and the text starts here and goes here, and I have a second poem here, and then I have the Oath of Chivalry here because it's a knighting scroll, and then I final text, yes I know, given this 10th day of September, AS 51. So the scroll is actually about 5 years old. My poor client has been waiting for a very long time. His first person that he commissioned to work on this was unable to complete it for whatever reason, and so he tapped me, and I was more than willing to do it, and then went through a house fire, and the original scroll that I was working on was destroyed. That was kind of a bad day. Now I'm here, I'm starting over. I have been stalling for a while, working up the nerve to actually start this scroll once again, and I think I'm finally ready to do it. So I'm going to get my text here where I can see it. I'm going to take off my glasses. I'm going to pull out my pencil because there's something I want to check. I'm going to stick my head right under the camera here. If you look, I have dots. It's not zoomed in because my camera's not zooming today. Of course it's not. But I have very fine dots every other line to indicate to me which lines need to be written on. And since I have this giganimous capital here, I can't tell just by looking. There we are. I can't tell just by looking which line I start on, and I do not want to screw that up. So I took my dots here, I carried them over to the other side of the capital. Now I have an indicator of where each of my lines is going to begin. So now I'm ready to start writing. Got ink. What is with this gloppy stuff in the bottom of my jar? May have to stir that up with some distilled water and see if I can fix it. If I can't, I do have spare ink that I can switch to, and I will probably just do that. Cry havoc do we proclaim. I'm going to get a paper towel up here. I'm going to pull my sleeve down. We're going to avoid getting skin oils back on this vellum. I've just pounced it. It would be a bit silly to ruin that. Cry havoc do we proclaim. Man, it's being sort of weird. I don't know if my pen is clogged or if it's the ink. I did just pounce all of this. It's not looking quite as crisp and dark as I want it to. It looks like it's coming out. You know how when you write with a dry marker and the lines are not clear, they're sort of see-through? That's sort of what I'm getting here, and I'm not quite sure why. If I need to, I will switch inks. I would prefer not to need to, though. I have it to proclaim. Yeah, I'm strongly considering switching inks on this, which is irritating. You would think I would not have this to deal with when I was just starting out with a fresh bottle of ink, but such is life. I'm going to talk with my mouth full here and pull out nourishing ink. Instead of the Penman's ink, we're going to attempt Winsor Newton Calligraphy ink. This is a pigmented ink where oak gall is a dye that binds to the parchment and oxidizes and turns black. This is black to start with. It's like a lamp black or a carbon-based ink. And that should hopefully behave a little better. And rather than deal with the actual scroll I'm going to test drive this one on a scrap. This is why we keep our scraps, boys and girls, so we can test things. I'll put the lid back on my iron gall because spilling things is bad. Bring my Winsor Newton around here. That looks promising already. Test it up here. Oh yeah, that's what I want. That's behaving much, much, much better. So I guess McCaffrey's Penman's ink is out for the day. Not that it was a bad ink. I suspect it may have just aged past the point of usefulness, but I don't want to hassle with it, so we're not going to worry about it. Cry havoc, do we proclaim. Cameron and Amelie. I do love it when I make a mistake in the very first line of writing. This one is not a spelling error, it is a letter shape error. And again, since the cameras aren't zoomed in, I'm going to make them big so you can see them. The script that I'm working with is from a text called the Roman de Alexandria. And its A's look like this. Upside down, of course, because I'm left-handed and I do these things upside down. I just wrote one of those. So to flip it right side up, this is the A that I should have used, this is the A that I did use. Fortunately, these are fixable. Vellum is very forgiving of errors. There's nothing that you can't fix with a scalpel and some patience. I'm going to come back to that later. You never ever want to fix your scripts while the ink is wet. You'll just make a big, huge smear. So let's go back to making the correct letter A. Much better. King by right of arms and Queen of love and beauty. A neat thing about this manuscript, I don't have to capitalize anything except the very beginnings of sentences and maybe the name of God, but the name of God is not actually in this scroll anywhere because it's a knighting scroll, not a biblical text. The Roman de Alexandra didn't even capitalize the name Alexandra in the text. Roman de Alexandra, the Romance of Alexander. Just as we have Arthurian legends, and there's a whole bunch of them, they had Alexander romances, which were about the legendary life and adventures of Alexander the Great. A mythical birth, fantastical adventures, all kinds of cool stuff like that. But they didn't capitalize things, which makes my life a little easier. I only have one set of alphabets that I really have to focus on in the body of the text. Of course, I have other alphabets that I will use when I get to these capital lines here, but for now, I'm not going to fret over them. King by right of arms. I'm sure this would be much more interesting for you all to watch if I had better lighting, A, and B, a camera that would zoom in. I don't know why it's not today, but it's not something I really want to fret over when I'm trying to record. So this is what we're getting today. It would also help if I stopped death gripping the pen. Very common beginner's mistake, they say. I am not a beginner. I've been doing this for over 15 years. I still death grip the pen from time to time. I need something here. So in period, they erased mistakes with a knife, a scalpel. They also, and you'll see this in a lot of period illustrations, wrote with the scalpel in one hand and the pen in the other, pressing down on the page. I don't know if you can see the way that's moving. This vellum is not even. It's actually some of the smoothest vellum I've ever worked with, but it's still not completely even. It has raised areas and lowered areas. It has bubbles, so to speak, hills and valleys, and you want to hold it steady while you write so that the letters behave. If you're writing on paper that doesn't hold still, you get sloppy letters. I'm going to be switching to red ink here very soon, as long as I don't screw up and forget. But first I need to dip a little bit more black ink going here. People always think that a dip pen is hard to use because you have to reload so often, but if you look, this is several lines of text with a small nib. A larger nib, of course, is going to go through the ink more quickly. But for a small nib like this, you can go quite a ways before it's time to reload and keep going. And let's look the Hound of Wales, Canis Valensis. Branat Rowan, where's my picture? I have a picture of this text. Not there. It's right here. Yeah, I have lines here in red. In this case, the name of the recipient. Over here, an announcement of what the next poem is, like the title of the poem. And over here, another title for the Oath of Chivalry. Down here, I'm thinking of doing in red also. This is the given this 10th day of September, Anno Societatis, etc., etc. Thinking about doing that. Okay. And let's slip the Hound of Wales. And then I'll switch. Remind me to switch. Scrap out here. There we go. Hound of Wales. And that's my black ink used up for this. It'll be time to switch to red. Now, it is wise if you are using 2 colors of ink to use 2 pens. This will be my red pen. It is more wise to keep handy a little glass of water to rinse your pens out when you're done with them. I got a little lazy, forgetful, and did not get a glass of water. There we go. This is also Winsor Newton Ink. I got a set of 6 different colors. Black, brown, red, blue, green, and gold. I've used this brand for a long time and I very much like it. It's very strongly pigmented, it's very bright, it's very intense, which you will see here as soon as I start. Canis Valensis, the Latin word for Hound of Wales. Canis Valensis. Ordinarily, when you do scrolls, they're a surprise for the recipient, but since this one is 5 years old, I was commissioned by the recipient. He knows I'm doing this. In fact, I specifically wanted to put this stage on camera so he could see the first words go down. So, Bran, if you're watching, this is for you. Here comes your name, bud. There it is. We are not going to color the exclamation point. That would be silly. We are going to get the last of the ink from this pen back into the bottle, if we can. Put that on that ink, because, again, spills are bad. Winsor Newton Calligraphy ink. Looks like this. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Again, available from John Neal. Again, unsolicited advertisement. They are a small business out of North Carolina? South Carolina? One of the Carolinas. They have like 8 people working for them, and their customer service is second to none. They are fantastic people. Pause to take a drink. Pick up my pen. My black pen, because I just put away my red pen. Since it was sitting there drying out for a couple, I've re-dipped it, test driving it a little bit, making sure it's going to behave. Groovy. So that's his brand at Rowan! Exclamation point. Let's do text I can read rather than using that teeny tiny photocopy. Another good reason to keep a cup of water around, especially when you're working with pigmented inks, is that as they dry, they build up on the nib. I have a paper towel. I can scuff some of that off. I have a stiff piece of vellum. I can scrape it off the edge, or I can run out of ink, dip it into the water, wash it off real quick, blot it on my paper towel, load up, and keep going. As I said, I didn't go and get a thing of water, so I'm making do with what I got here. And that is the first verse of this poem. First stanza, I should say. There are only 7 more to go. This poem will run here, and then here, and finish up a little bit over here before I begin the second poem. Except there's going to be a miniature, and then the second poem. The reason I'm writing this far down on the page is because I've got a miniature that's going to go here, a great big honking battle scene. It's going to look really cool. But you need to leave space for battle scenes, and I was able to do that here. Measure carefully, measure twice, cut once, all that good stuff. And this is where we are. So Bran, there you are, the very first stanza of the praise poem for you. I think I've been at this for probably an hour by now. I have no idea, actually. But I think this is going along fairly well, and I think it's probably a safe time for me to go ahead and stop recording and continue on my merry way. I will either keep doing calligraphy and you'll catch up to me again the next time I record, or I won't, and we'll just pick up right here where we left off. But thank you everybody for watching. It's always good. It is always good to have people here. I hope you enjoy this, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And then, of course, the requisite YouTube thing, be sure to like and subscribe. I don't actually care how many subscribers I get. It's more that if you subscribe, I'm pretty sure you'll be notified when the next video goes live, and that'll be nice. So again, thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you'll come by next time. Take care. Bye-bye.